welcome back to my channel. This is Dom and another one of my updates on the painting frenzy and what I've been up to in the historical wargaming hobby of ours. So the first thing I have to say is thank you to everybody for getting me up over the 5,000 sub mark. It's about 6 years since I started this channel, and the thought of actually having 5,000 of you subscribe to it is quite extraordinary. So thank you very much indeed for all the support, all the kind words, all the positivity. Really love it. Even some of the constructive or not quite so constructive feedback is useful, right? I'm not going to pretend that I'm perfect at anything I do by any means. So it is useful sometimes to get a little steer, especially when it's done in a nice way. So appreciate hugely everybody who watches these videos. You know, it's a weird thing. You sit here or you stand here and you do a video talking about your hobby, and it's always a really nice thing when other people enjoy it and get something from it and get inspiration from it. So very grateful to everybody who does, and I know for every one that does subscribe, there's at least one or more who don't, but still watch. So thank you anyway for you guys as well. Really appreciate it. I mean, if you could just see your way clear to hitting that subscribe button down below, don't cost you anything. The tracker can't see you, but it does mean that I get another subscriber, which is always fun. So there you go. Anyway, on to 10,000 now. Probably take me 20 years to get to that one, but you can aim for the sky, right? So thank you once again, 5,000 of you, really appreciate it. So yeah, another week's gone by and the painting frenzy has continued. I think it might even have sped up, if I'm absolutely honest. Lots and lots of painting, and really actually enjoying it. Don't tell anyone. I actually quite enjoying painting. It's just cold weather, I think, because we're not really doing a huge amount. So I've been out. We haven't been out as much as we normally are, and therefore I've had a lot more time to get the paint brushes out and get some figures done. So let's have a look at what I've been up to in the last week or so. So first up, no end to the medieval feeling of life at the moment. So this is a unit of bowmen from the retinue of the Earl of Devon. I used him in one of the battles I did fairly recently, and I just thought I'd get him some more units to go with his army. Originally I was thinking about, I don't know what quite happened, but I was planning to do just a sort of nondescript bow unit that could be used for pretty much any retinue I wanted to, but for some reason before I knew it I was painting it with a darker red, which is his colour, and so that's how they become. But I can always use them for anything, as you saw. Interesting, this fella here coming round, he has arms from the Wargames Atlantic peasant set. Loads of spare arms with that, so I just thought I'd put him on just to give it a bit of variety. But otherwise they're all Perry figures, as you recognise if you've been doing them. So there you go, first unit down of this set of longbowmen. So next up, I promised well, I didn't promise, but I said that my plan was this year to get started on the Perry Ottoman Napoleonic figures that I've picked up over the last couple of years since they started producing them. Don't know why, just really fancied doing them. Bit of different sort of thing, bit of colour. It's what I love about the Napoleonic period generally, is just all the sheer variety of nations that are involved. I've had them for quite a while, and every time they release new ones I buy the next ones and put them in a box. And so I started to sort that box out, as you saw with one of my updates, and finally got around to putting some paint on the metal. So these are, well, this is my first unit. This is a unit of 24 Solak Guard, coming in a very striking yellow uniform, which I think many of us will know, not the easiest to get right. But I actually really enjoyed these. Now I did them differently, and my usual method is undercoating grey and then paint up from there. But this time I thought I'd do something a bit different because there was quite a lot of detail on these models, and being metal, I thought, right, I'm going to try something a bit different. So I first of all coated them in black, in a matte black, and then I sort of dry brushed, or heavily sort of drag brushed, I guess, with an off-white or a tan colour. And then started painting from there, and I used a yellow contrast paint. I forget which one it was. If I remember, I'll put it on as a message down below. But I used that initially for the colours, and it took really well. And because the dark comes through in the recesses, you get sort of an instant shadow, which I really enjoyed. And then once everything was done and all the belts were done, gave it a wash, and then touched it all up again with another yellow, a normal yellow, and really pleased with the results. Actually, I think they're quite striking. This time I used the Vallejo, I think it's brown mud, I think it's called, for the bases, just because I just wanted something a bit different from the normal European mud that I do, and this has a slightly more sort of arid, deserty type feel to it. So only issue is I'm unsure on flags. I've ordered a whole load, but nobody seems to do Napoleonic period flags for the Ottoman army. I'm assuming they didn't change hugely from the earlier period or the later period, but I've got some books that give me some ideas. So I've sent off for a few, and we'll see how they work. But the unit is done, 24 figures. Very pleased with them. So next up, I won't go into a huge amount of detail on these, because if you're interested, you probably would have seen the separate video I did on these. So these are the Wargames Atlantic medieval foot sergeants that they're just about to, or have just released, depending on when I put this video out. They kindly sent me a box of them to do a video on, which I've done. Long and short of them, I think they're fabulous. Really like them. A bit like the peasants. Really nice figures. Even for a fat-fingered buffoon like me, I can do some adaptations with them. Use other arms from Perry's, even Victrix sets to get a bit of variety in them. I like them very much. Not quite as much as the peasants, but I do like them all the same. So this unit I've done as an early period, early from the box anyway, period of foot soldiers or foot sergeants, and they'll be drafted into the Scottish ranks for my Bruce's in Ireland project at some point. So there you go. And these ones are some more foot sergeants with some Perry figures mixed in, using some of the bodies and arms interchanging and what have you, that I've used the later period heads from the Wargames Atlantic foot sergeants to do a small unit of mercenary crossbowmen for my War of the Roses. Probably they're a little bit early for War of the Roses, those sort of kettle helmets or whatever you called them, but I'm going to, that's still useful for an early period army. Also, yeah, a helmet's a helmet. When the rubber hit the road, I'm sure you grabbed whatever helmet you could. It was better than no helmet at all in that period. So, and as you know, I'm not overly fussed by having exactly the right buckle on a figure. So yeah, same reference really as the foot sergeants. Very nicely, really nice models. Great fun to do. I put a banner of a French mercenary company there on them, so they'll join the ranks of my War of the Roses figures. So along with the set of figures that Wargames Atlantic sent me, they also gave me a box of their new 25mm round bases. They've got a sort of interesting lip thing, so if you've got figures with pudding bases or puddle bases, you use the side that has a sort of indented top. So you can put it in there, fill it with, ground stuff or mud or whatever you use, and it will be the same height as if you used it the other way around when you put figures like these two that didn't have any bases and stick them down. So I just painted them up to show how those bases work. I mean, they're bases. Not sure where I got them. Well, I think Martin, Seventh Son, sent me these figures. They're 3D prints. Not sure why or where they came from. But I just thought they're sitting there, I'd paint them up. So one's obviously sort of an adventurer, or I guess for a sort of D&D type character. He's got all kinds of bits and bobs on his back. The other one looks more Norman in nature. Possibly he's one of the Reconquerors. I can't remember. They're slightly bigger than 28mm, but still nice figures, and they didn't take long to paint up, so I thought I'd do it. And there they are. And yeah, the medievals keep coming. So another unit for the War of the Roses. These are, well, what I've done with these are they're a mixed bag of men-at-arms mixed with bill and bow. So it's in the new supplement you can upgrade bill, bill and bow, or just pure bill, into men-at-arms and bill, just to basically sort of represent the fact that sort of men-at-arms were fed in and sort of in amongst the units to provide extra morale and boost to their fighting ability and so forth. So that's what I've done with these, just to sort of show that off, which I'm quite pleased with how it's come out. Actually, I'm really happy with the armour on those men-at-arms. It represents a retinue from Sir John Mordaunt, who was a Lancastrian lord from, I believe, from up north somewhere. North of England, and yeah, to be honest, I just did it because the colour scheme on his retinue is quite easy to do, just black and white, just is pretty simple. So yeah, there you go. Perry figures primarily, just a couple of arms that may have slipped in from the no, these are, just looking at them now, they're all entirely Perry figures. So I didn't slip in any Wargames Atlantic in these ones. But yeah, nice to get done. And another unit to join the massive retinues I have. And then here's his lordship himself. So this is John Mordaunt, or his command base. I've done them, so some of them I've done on the rectangular bases and some I've done on the round bases. The round ones are good for sort of standing out. But if you want to join a unit, having them on the same sort of size bases as the standard unit makes more sense. So I kind of wish I'd done them more like this. Some of them I have, as I say, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So these are Perrys. The two on the left here now, as they're coming around, they're metal Perrys. They're supposed to represent various characters, but I'm just using them as any command base. And then the guy with the flag is a Perry plastic from the Bill and Bow box set, which is ever versatile. So yeah, kind of fun. I did the Lord Mordaunt himself in black armour. Yeah, just because black armour's kind of cool, isn't it? So there you go. There's 3 more done. So here's something completely different for me. This is a little diorama scene setting thing. So I was fiddling around with some of the Wargames Atlantic peasant figures, and I thought, you know what I'd like to really do is have somebody have some figures that are sort of denote people going around giving extra arrows out to the troops. Obviously in the Wargames the Warlord game new magazine or new supplement, arrows, you only have 3 arrow storms you can fire, and once you've done that you're out of arrows. And I thought, well, in some scenarios you might want to have the ability to give more arrows out, and that got me thinking, and I started to fiddle around with them, put a few Perry arms on figures, and then I thought, you know what, I've got a cart somewhere. And in amongst all my War of the Roses collection, I had this cart, which I don't know where I got it from. It's a metal, would you believe? It's quite heavy. And it had already been painted, but I just sort of redid it a bit. I got some of the arrow bundles from the Perry Light Cavalry sets, put them on there. Also the bows that are sort of wrapped in, obviously I guess they must have been leather, on there as well, and there's a couple of loose arrows and a quiver with some arrows which are from the Wargames Atlantic sets, and I put them all together on this little diorama, sort of mini diorama that I could use either just to put behind on, you know, just to put some scenery, I guess, or they could be used for, as I say, for a scenario where the one side has some sort of ability to reload its archers in some way, which would be a lot of fun. Funny enough, Martin and I were talking about this. I think one of his games he was discussing it with Robin and the guys he games with, that you could see scenarios where maybe troops are defending a city or something where they get more than their 3 arrow storms that they can reload because they've got access to extra arrows. Similarly, you could have an opportunity where you've got this sort of resupply going on behind the lines that would allow certain units to refill on arrows and go back into the front line with more arrow storms to cause mayhem. Anyway, I think it's a bit of fun, and I really enjoyed doing this. It was so nice, and it just reinforced again how good the sculpting is on these Wargames Atlantic figures, and the fact you can sort of fiddle around with them, put different arms on, and they work really nicely indeed. So yeah, there you go, little sort of ammunition cart, shall we say, for the archers. So next up, another unit, Ottomans. I did say I was going to crack on with them, and I certainly have. This is a colourful bunch. These are Perry irregular Ottomans. So as I understand it, and I'm doing lots of research on the Ottomans at the moment, but as I understand it, they had huge amounts of, they had the Janissaries, and then they attempted to make a modern army, but they also, in all the armies, were supported by huge numbers of irregulars and tribal members and various other people press-ganged or there for booty. And these represent some of the booty hunters. I think booty hunters? That sounds wrong. You know what I mean. Anyway, completely put myself off there. So as I intended with these Ottomans, I'm going in with full colour. So these boys are very, very colourful. Maybe too colourful, I don't know, but I just think it's a lot of fun, and I kind of like it. These have also got 4 flags, which is kind of fun as well, brings a bit more sort of dynamism and excitement to the unit, I think. Yeah, really, really enjoying painting them, and more than I thought. I sort of had them for quite a while, been collecting them for quite a while, and sort of was a bit sort of wanted to get into the mood to paint, and actually I've really enjoyed doing them. So you can expect a load more Ottomans coming off my painting table in the next few weeks and months. So next up, with unfeasibly large flags, is a unit. Well, this is a large unit, so probably would be 3 bases for a standard unit of kerns, Irish kerns, plus gallowglass built into them to make them a bit harder. These will join my War of the Roses mercenary factions to be used on whichever battles I want to do. Now, I've got loads of kerns that I've got for my Bruces in Ireland, but they're predominantly lightly armed, and and also they don't have an awful lot of bows built in. So over Christmas I placed an order with the Perrys for some of their metal kerns, so I could have a mixed bag of archers within units with some gallowglass built in, some kerns with axes and all sorts of things. So they're a bit harder and a bit more heavy duty for the function in mind. These are all metals. I've painted them. I've stuck to, when I was doing my Irish Bruce in Ireland project, I was a bit more colourful with the kerns. But these I've stuck to probably a bit more historical. So as I understand it, the kerns predominantly wore these sort of clothes with kind of a yellowy, mustardy, browny kind of shade, and that was because apparently they used saffron to dye their linen and all their clothing. So I mean, saffron's ridiculously expensive these days, so you wouldn't do it. More expensive than gold, I believe. But certainly in that period, that's what they did. So I've kind of gone in with more muted yellowy browns and light browns and that sort of thing, just to sort of show that. I found the flags online. I attempted to sort of scale them, got the scaling a bit wrong, but I actually quite like the size of them. I'm not sure how they're going to fit in the box, but I actually quite like the flags as it stands out. So apparently they are authentic kern flags from the sort of high medieval period, but I don't know enough about it to be 100% sure, but they just look pretty good. I've got another 3 bases of kerns to do, so that I could do two regular size units, one large and one regular unit, that kind of thing. So a bit of variety. So I'll get around to painting those soon. But it's nice to get these fellas done, and it's more in the OPC challenge. The count should be at the bottom of the screen. And then finally, for now, and I didn't really expect these to make the cut, actually. I thought these were going to take longer than they actually did. These are some more of the Napoleonic Ottoman figures from Perry. These are, I forget exactly the name of the regiment, I'll try and remember and put it down below. But they are basically what they termed the new model army for the Ottomans. So not to be confused with the very effective English Civil War new model army. This was the Sultan's attempt to modernise and take the power away from the janissaries in the Ottoman armed forces. In around, I think it was 1807, something like that. He formed a number of regiments that were based on Western style fighting, used French officers and what have you to train his men. It was a bit of a disaster for him because the janissaries rebelled and assassinated him. But the sort of effect of that continued later on, with the army continuing to modernise a bit and become slightly more effective than the sort of more medieval, or certainly Renaissance-y version of the army that he inherited. So this is one of the more modern regiments. It was great fun to do. I really enjoyed doing it. So I've mentioned before, the way I've been painting these Ottomans is different to how I normally paint figures. So I've undercoated in black, and then sort of drag brushed with an off-white over the top, just to sort of highlight or show the highlights. And then I've gone in with contrast paint. So I used a red contrast paint on these, which actually left a beautiful colour, and then just the white belts. There's not an awful lot to them. I mean, they're white hats, white jackets and white trousers. They got sort of a grey bandolier-y thing around the lower leg, and browner shoes, but and the equipment obviously is white. So it actually doesn't take long to paint these fellas. I then put a wash over them and then just highlighted the colours back up again using, I forget which red it was now, but quite a bright red. And it was dead simple to do. I really, really liked doing them. They came together really quickly, and I like the effect of them. I think they're a nice looking unit. So yeah, another one done. More for the OPC. I think these are just about dry. They've been varnished this morning. So ready to go in the box. Now I've got 3 regiments of infantry, 3 battalions of infantry for the Ottomans. So not getting far away from being able to actually field them to at least some smaller degree, maybe as a combined Ottoman and English army against some dastardly French. We'll see. Anyway, there you go. The Ottoman first new model army unit finished. Yeah, I did warn you. It's been quite a bit in a week or so, and as I say, doesn't seem to be abating. One of the things I did do over Christmas, and I can't remember whether I mentioned this in the video or not, but I bought myself, using some money I had from my parents, one of the airbrush extractor fan things to go here in the cabin, and that's been an absolute
Absolute godsaver. So normally, because you mustn't really spray indoors, so I have to spray outdoors, and if it's weather's bad, you can't prime as much as you want, or either prime too much, or end up with piles of figures sitting around on sprues ready to be painted up that I don't fancy doing. And also when it comes to varnishing, I found that often with the matte varnish I use, if the atmosphere outside is damp, you get sort of bobbles all over, particularly on the spears and the rifles, which is quite frustrating. So this has been an absolute godsend, and it was fairly expensive. It was about 140 quid, I think, something like 120 quid, something like that. And the exhaust sort of sticks out the window, which can be quite cold on a cold day. But it does mean that I've been able to prime things when I want to. So I'll put models together and then prime them, and then by the next day they're ready to, nice and dry, ready to go. And similarly, when I've painted something overnight, I can come out here in the morning while I'm sort of having my coffee and varnish. Doesn't matter what the weather's like. So absolutely really pleased with that purchase, and that's certainly helped the output. In terms of what else I've been buying, I bought some of these Wargames Atlantic, these Afghan warriors, foot ones, and also mounted ones. I had a thinking that I might be able to use them for my Ottoman Napoleonic army. Because I'm trying to find other versions. So at the moment, much as I'm really enjoying doing the Ottomans. As you can see, I've done a few units now, and I'm really enjoying doing them. But the peri metals are quite expensive, and I want to build more. And particularly, I want more of the irregular forces. And just the thought of constantly having to go and buy metals, much as I love metals, it worries me a little bit. So, especially because if I'm honest, I'm not sure how many of them are actually going to see the table regularly. So, I'm looking at other options, and I thought, well, maybe these might do it. I don't know anybody who knows much about these figures, and whether I haven't even unboxed them yet, so I don't know, but whether or not they would work. They look like they could. If not, I will use these for my colonial period army. So it's not a waste, but I just thought, possibly. I need to look at some of the books I've got on the Ottomans and see whether these work as some of their sort of irregular forces that were in the army. So anyway, bought them. I also, real cock up on my part, I bought, I went to Essex. So I've been, as I say, I've been searching around for other alternative figures to put in with the peri metals for the Ottomans. And because as I've read about the period, there's not an awful lot of change in the uniforms between the different periods. I mean, the Ottoman army of 16 whatever is pretty much the same as it was in 1880, for instance. There's not an awful lot of difference, just more gunpowder. Obviously, earlier period, there were a lot more bows, and they phased out and it became muskets, and arquebuses, and then muskets. So I've been looking at other periods and other figure manufacturers, and I picked up some Essex. Can you see that? Yeah, there we go. Essex. This is an Essex Janissary, which is actually quite nice. I mean, back in the day, I mean, in these boxes here, there's probably hundreds of Essex figures. 15 and 28 mils, and so I'm quite pleasantly surprised by that. But so I bought some Janissaries just to add a bit of variety. But the only problem, they're all in that shooting pose. They didn't do any in other poses. You could buy them with other weapons, but I want them with muskets, or those arquebuses that look like muskets, and there wasn't anything like that. So that was a bit of a bummer. So I'm going to now find something that mixes in, because I don't want 24 figures all firing forward. It just would look weird. So, but I also went in and bought some of their Renaissance Ottoman cavalry. So there's a pack of them there. And they've got some nice figures. And actually, they've come out, there's one of the generals. Whether it shows out, does it show up? Yeah, it does indeed. Really quite nice figures. But stupid Dom didn't realise that you need to order the horses separately. I thought they were cheap. And the frustration is that, so I contacted them and they said, well, you need to order horses, and it does say that, and I've re-looked at the thing and it does quite clearly say, well, it does say under the description, you need to order horses separately, but it doesn't tell you which horses go with which figure. So I contacted them again, they said, well, all do, but the problem is on their site, half the horses don't have any images. So I would like to have the sort of, what they call Syphonia cavalry that I bought. I'd like them to have on partially barded horses. But I can't tell from the description whether they are Renaissance-y type barding or whether they're high medievals. So it's all a bit of a disaster. So then I thought, when I was buying these, I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll buy some of the Wargames Atlantic horses and see whether they fit. They don't fit. The riders are just, their legs aren't wide enough, and I can't bend them enough to, they would look really weird if I bent them too much. So I've got a box now of Wargames Atlantic horses that are no good to me. Oh well, never mind. So yeah, I've now got to buy a whole lot of horses for all the cavalry that I bought from Essex. My fault entirely. I get asked from time to time about the basing I use and the tufts I use. So I've mentioned before, a lot of the main part of the tufts. So when I'm doing my bases, I generally now use Vallejo mud, whatever it is. At the moment I'm using a sandier version because I'm doing the Ottomans, but usually it's European mud for the more Western European ones, on top of MDF bases. And then I use a tub of tufts that I buy from Amazon. There's about 700 tufts in the box for about 20 quid or something like that, 25 quid, I forget exactly how much. If I remember, I'll put a link down below. And it's great because they're very, they're bulky. They give you something you can use as a bulk amount. They're relatively cheap, which is perfect. But then I also like to put in a few little flowers and what have you, just to give it a bit of variety, because the only problem with those tufts is they're very uniform. There's not an awful lot of variation. There is in colour, but not in size, so they're all about the same size. So I've got an order of Tajima tufts here, which I like to sort of use sparingly in amongst the bases. So I've got some flowers and some shrubs and various other things here, which, I mean, they're really nice. There you go, these are tall flower tufts. There you go. And you can see they're, they just give something different to break up the Amazon cheapy tufts, and I like those just to build in. So I placed an order with them, and I got a whole load through. It's about 50 quid, because they're not, that's the only thing, these are not cheap. So use them sparingly. Other than that, I think that's all the purchases. I have ordered some rivers from Last Valley. I've got a set of rivers from him, but they're ones with trees built in, which are lovely, and I really like them. But some games you want to have a bit more of a bare bank, so to speak. So I've ordered some of those, but they haven't arrived just yet. He said the varnish was drying on them, so hopefully they'll arrive in a few days' time. I think that's most of the stuff. There's probably some other stuff. I did buy. Oh, I know what I did. I bought some these fellas. Where do they show up? Go away. There we go. Duchy of Warsaw. Actually, no, I think these are Vistula Legion, French Vistula Legion, Polish Napoleonic figures. I bought a unit of 24 on eBay. Somebody was selling them, and they're actually not bad painted. So I picked them up because I've got a Polish Divisional 2, and it'll go in with those. So they were pretty good, quite a good price. I also bought on eBay some more of those AK interactive pens. I might do a separate video on those because they're becoming more and more of a key part of my painting. I know Martin did a review of the big box, but they are really taking over. I'm using them a lot in my everyday painting, and they speed things up no end. They have the limitations, so they're not perfect, but there you go. So I think that's it in terms of purchases. Gaming wise, so last week we played Pickett's Charge, rules by Dave Brown, 15mm ACW. We were up in the small room upstairs at the club, so there's a limited space, and we played that. We played the Battle of Antietam, I think it is, which is the one scenario that's in the book. And after we got it underway, I realised we'd played it before, and it's a massacre against the Unions. I mean, the Union troops are just... So I talked about this on the Plastic Crack on Monday night. It was frustrating to me, and I hold my hand up and I apologise to the chaps I did at the time. I got very frustrated by it because much as I'm not all about winning, I want to have a good game and feel like I've at least got half a chance of winning. There was no chance of winning there. I mean, even a half-decent opponent would beat you in that scenario, and Jonathan and Paul are definitely not half-decent opponents. They're very good opponents, and even with modicum of, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, bless me, even with a modicum of ability, which they've certainly got a lot of, there's just no chance in that scenario at all, and it was no fun. I'm not sure they were having fun either, because they just cut my troops down before I even got... So it was probably a historical battle, right? Because as I understand it, the Battle of the Bloody Lane was exactly that. The Union troops were just gunned down before they got even close. But as a game, it was an awful lot of fun. So I had videoed it, but A, it was noisy in there because we were in the small room, and B, I thought it was a shit game. So I haven't bothered saving the footage, so apologies. Although I'll show some of I would have been showing while I'm talking, a short snippet I did of the early part of the game, just so you can see what it set out. It looked quite good, but didn't play good. So this week, this Friday, I'm going to be back down the club, and I think Tony's back. He wasn't around last week. So we're going to have a bigger game of black powder ACW using 28mm. Tony's been painting away like a mad fiend. Apparently he's got 7 regiments of infantry and a couple of regiments of cavalry and some guns. So I have worked up a scenario which is basically going to be a Confederate force trying to capture and destroy a railhead from the Union troops that are defending it, and then reinforcements will come on for the Unions, and that scenario will play out. See how it goes. Be nice to get the 28mm out. The only slightly nervous thing I have is that the club has been incredibly busy, and getting tables and space on a Friday night is getting harder and harder and harder, which is a good thing, right? But also it's frustrating because I get there generally about... The club's supposed to open at 6 and I get there about 10 past, and sometimes the other week there was no tables. I had to go and hunt some small ones down from elsewhere, which is a little bit frustrating. But so hopefully we'll get enough table space, because we need at least 3 of the, what are they, 2x6 tables. We'll need at least 3 of them this week for the game, because 28mm does need a bit of space. Anyway, so that's the game. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more balanced than the Pickett's Charge one the other week, but looking forward to getting the ACWs back out again. Otherwise, I think that's it for the moment. I'm supposed to be out and about a bit this weekend, so I'm not sure. The painting might slip back a bit, which is not a bad thing, although the weather apparently is getting a lot worse next week, so probably means I won't be doing much in the evenings either, so it'll be back to just doing some painting while there's some crap on the telly. So expect more, maybe expect another video fairly soon from me. Hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for all the support. So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you have a good week. I hope your gaming goes well and your painting goes well, and I will see you all again soon. This is Dom, signing out.